Alright, in this video we're going to go over some of the advanced features or the advanced settings of the backup client. We're going to go over the advanced settings for the backup job. Like I've mentioned in other videos, a lot of the settings for the backup job are real similar to the settings for the copy job. So we may do some redundance, but if you get a lot of the ones for the backup, those are going to be the most common that you'll probably be using, and a lot of these settings and configurations will carry over to the copy jobs. Hopefully I'll be able to give some examples that will help illustrate the point. Keep in mind that every computer system is going to be set up a little bit differently. Your computer system may be in a domain, it may be in a work group, it may be in a home computer environment, so each one is going to be different, and some features may or may not apply the same in all cases, so you want to keep that in mind. So getting started, when you open the backup client, it's going to come up to the Home tab. Click on Backup. We can see here from earlier videos that I have a folder here called Data that I'm backing up. I can open my, if I click on the Open icon, click on my Data backup job that I'm trying to get to. That will open up if it's not already open. And the settings we're going to look at are down here on the settings button. If you just click on the settings button, that's going to open up the window for you to adjust the settings. Let's keep in mind, let's take a quick look at the difference. There's a difference depend on what is available to set up here and on the different screens based on where you're going to be backing the data up to. There's a different set of features that apply to if you're backing up online versus if you're backing up to a local device, to a network drive, to a USB drive, or something of that nature. What I'll do is cancel out of there, go back. Let me tell it to back up to this folder here, and then go back into settings, and you can see that the number of selections are quite different. What we'll do is we will go over because the local backup has more settings, and I think that all of the settings that are in the local backup are going to be applicable to the online backup as well. The online backup just has a smaller set of them, and the reasons will be obvious later. For example, you don't have to enable drive letter management when you're doing an online backup, so that feature is not there. If I choose my BlueSky backup device, go into settings, I don't have the manage my enable drive letter management option. So we will make the assumption that we're going to be backing up to the local hard drive or to a drive on the network. But again, most of these will apply in both cases. Okay, so we will click Settings to get that box open, and you can see across the top is again the same kind of layout, the tabbed layout. Remember, a lot of these settings are going to be set by default, and this was covered in another video that you can watch. A lot of these settings are going to be covered in the settings here, or the settings in the backup tab more specifically. So you can set those defaults. If you do a number of jobs, you can set the defaults that are going to appear in this window, especially here, by setting those in that default settings window. For example, the run as user could be set in the default. You would not have to enter it here. You would have it by default. Starting with the backup tab, going with the the first checkbox that's here available is to compress the backup files. Kind of speaks for itself. The backup client can either compress the backup files when it makes a folder called an let me double check on that real quick. Yeah, it's gonna save the files in what's called an NBD file, Nancy Bravo David file, and if you select this compress backup files, it will actually compress that NBD file. And the pros to that is that you get more stuff in less space. The cons to it are that it's going to require some more CPU horsepower to compress that job. So that may be a concern. The compressed backup files is also an option that is not going to appear on the online backup tab or the online backup box. The next one down is verify after backup. It speaks for itself. It's always a good idea, unless you've got an extremely long backup job that's running into production time and the resource usage is too high. It's always a good idea to verify the backup to make sure that what the client backed up is going to be what the client thought it backed up, especially if you're going to be backing up to something like a tape or a network drive where you could have some outages. You probably want to do a verify of the backup to make sure that everything went well. Again, if you've got a real big backup job and it's bleeding over into your production time, your office time, and your resource usage is extremely high, then a verify the backup job may not be practical. In a case like that, I'd recommend that you do some infrastructure changing and to either get a faster device, to do some upgrades somewhere, maybe back up less data, maybe archive some data off to DVD, CD that you're not using, some kind of way though so that you can get it to do a verify after backup, because you don't want to find out that things didn't work when you need to restore some data. So a verify after backup is a good case. The online guy is going to do that for you, so that does that by default. The next check, the next checkbox down is the backup security and permissions your ACLs. Well, the ACLs you can think of are sort of like permissions on the file. Let's say that you've got two users, mom and dad. Dad logs in, he's got his favorites, he's got his documents, his Excel sheets, his stuff. Mom comes in, she logs in, she creates her emails, has her documents and Excel sheets, etc. Those two users are going to have different permissions. Typically, the mom user wouldn't have the ability to go in and open up a dad user document. Um, Again, the environment that you're in is going to dictate how that is set up and what kind of permissions there are. But the backup security and permissions checkbox is going to back up those permissions as well. Where you would see a difference in that is, let's say dad is running the backup and he's backing up mom's stuff. Dad would not be able to restore mom's stuff to his user ID and then access it. It's going to bring the permissions for mom back with it. If you're working in a domain environment, you probably understand that even a little bit better, and you can also take permissions away or take ownership of a certain file. So even if you were backing up the permissions and security, you could always overwrite those if you had to restore it. Say you had to restore it to another machine, or you had to restore it to another domain or a new domain. Do some research on the security and permissions and see if they are right for you. Or what is best in your situation. The backup client can either back them up or it cannot. So it's totally up to you. And the backup security and permissions is going to be an option for the online device. Moving down the list, we've got automatically eject media at the end of a job. Let's say that you're backing up to tape or CD. If you click this box, then it's actually going to eject the CD out of the CD drive. A good case where that comes in real nice is, say you're going to do a backup to CD or DVD over a weekend. You want to start it Friday when you leave, and you put a CD in the drive, close it, and you select this checkbox to do the backup job. When you come in on Monday, the CD tray should be ejected and the CD should be sitting there waiting for you to take out and label and file away. Highly recommend your important data, this stuff that you really care about. It's always a good idea to archive it from time to time to CD. You could do a manual job that you're going to archive that data off to CD, put it in a fireproof safe, take it off site, and then you've got a good backup that you know you can rely on if something else happens. I'll get on the soapbox briefly that you cannot have enough backups. More backups are better. If you back up on January 1st and something happens, February 1st, it's real good to be able to go back to January 30th. But in a worst case scenario, if you backed up to a CD or DVD or something on January 1st, worst case you have to go back to January 1st. You've still got all of that other data from before January 1st that you're going to have there. So having multiple backups is a good plan. The more backups, the better. You can't have enough. Force the database to be backed up in full mode is the next option on the list. This refers to the database that the BlueSky client keeps. It's always a good idea to back that up. To back that up completely, leave this checkbox checked by default. That way, if you have to restore, that's one less thing that the backup client has to worry about. Rebuilding and getting together is its own internal database. So leave that checked by default is the best practice. It can save you some trouble down the road, save you some time. Enable open file backup. You probably want to leave this checked by default. I can't think of any reason why you wouldn't, unless well, let me explain how the open file backup works. It uses the native Windows shadow copy service to back up the open files. It takes a snapshot using the VSS, the volume shadow copy service of Windows, to back up the open files. The only time that I could see that you wouldn't want to do this if you had a real delicate application that had trouble if there was if VSS is running, or if you have some kind of problem with the VSS or volume shadow copy service in Windows. If that's flagging an error, then you may want to unselect this checkbox. Keep in mind that if you unselect the enable open file backup checkbox, any files that are open, whether they be database files or whatnot, are not going to get backed up, and unless they're completely closed. So if you've got an open file and you uncheck this box, that open file will not get backed up. So you want to be real careful when you're using that. It's best to find out why the VSS isn't working, or the shadow copy service on Windows isn't working, and fix that, than it is to take a chance on losing a file. The next one down is enable drive letter management. This is a real good feature if you're backing up to USB drives. Let's say that you have multiple USB drives that you plug in and unplug throughout the day. It's possible that the backup, if you're unplugging and plugging in USB drives all day doing different things like that, it's possible that another USB drive is going to be assigned the drive letter that your backup was assigned to. Let's say that you've got a 1 terabyte drive that you want to be backing your data up to, and you unplug it and you plug in a little USB thumb drive that's got, say, 256 meg worth of space. It's possible that the operating system will assign that little small USB thumb drive the same drive letter that your backup is going to be looking for. Obviously, you may not have enough room. It could format that little USB thumb drive, and you could lose your data on it. So what you want to do if you're using that, and if you're in a case where you're switching it around and you're doing some different things with USB, it's always a good idea to enable the drive letter management. And what that'll do, it will actually look at the serial number of the drive that's plugged in, or the serial number of the USB interface that's plugged in, and it'll make sure that everything matches up before it does the backup. It's a little bit more resource and overhead intensive, but if you're using a USB drive to do some of your backups, then I'd probably recommend enabling that feature if you can. Okay, we're going to stop this video there. We'll pick up on the next one.